kiss for you.
What happened to e-readers? I think it's pretty simple. Lack of competition, and they're real hard to buy. Now, that might not make no sense to you, especially right now, but let's put ourselves into the shoes of someone who is using this for the first time. Let's see, if I were to say, hey, you have $300, go buy an e-reader, for books and stuff. What are you gonna do? Well, you're gonna go on Amazon, most likely, and you're going to check and see, hey, what are available e-readers? And you're going to see the first one, which is the new Amazon Kindle lightest weight, blah, 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 blah. And then you'll see certified refurbished Kindle, and then you'll see another Kindle, and a Kindle, and a Kindle. And you'll go down, you'll see a Kindle, and you'll see a Fire tablet, and then you'll see a Kindle, and a Kobo, and a Kobo, and a Kobo, and a pocketbook, and then you'll get a Kindle, and a Kindle, and a Kindle, and a Kindle. So it used to be, you'd have a lot of options. You would have things like the Kindle, but then you'd also have stuff like the pocketbook, and the Nook, and the Kobo, right? You only basically at this point have the Kindle. And the reason is because Amazon also owns all the books, which is why when I say both lack of variety, meaning you're probably going to get a Kindle, and hard to actually buy them, what I mean by that is if you're actually trying to find books, like ebooks, they're quite hard to buy. You can't buy them on the Kindle. I know because I have a Paperwhite. You can't buy them directly on the Kindle store. A lot of the time you have to go to the Kindle app on your phone, which you also can't buy books from. You can browse books and you can read books that you already have purchased or whatever, right? So if I just show you the Kindle app, right, this thing, right? You can look at your books, see? You can see the library and look at your books and read the books, but you cannot buy the books here most of the time. It's like, okay, you can't do it from there. Usually you can't do it from the Kindle, like the Kindle itself. You have to, it will show like reviews and stuff, but it doesn't actually give you the ability to buy a lot of them. Most of them you have to buy from Amazon, but that's not, all the books. So the confusing part is that depending on like licensing rights and stuff for what books and, shares of rights and things, some books are available only through Amazon.com searching in, ebook or whatever. Other ones are only available on the Kindle app on your phone or other device, right? That you then have to buy and set up with your card and all that. And some, the samples, are only through either the Amazon.com website or through the actual Kindle itself, where you can download samples. So it gets very confusing where if I'm just trying to look for, mystery ebooks, right? And I'm trying to look for them, and I see, okay, let's just choose, The Family Across the Street, right? Here. And so you see it's like, blah, 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 and you see Kindle, you see audiobook, you see paperback. I say Kindle, available instantly, buy now with one click. This is one that I can actually use, and it works pretty well. I can add an Audible version for $3, right? This is a book that works pretty well. If I click on any other book, a lot of the time what you'll get is a not available on Kindle option. And this is a pretty big problem, because if I just type in not available on Kindle, you'll see a bunch of people complaining about Kindle version of book unavailable for purchase. The Kindle title is not currently available for purchase. What audiobook show currently not available in new Kindle. Kindle says not available for this device. Kindle store is currently unavailable. Books aren't showing in your library, right? There's a lot of issues when it comes to incompatibility and format problems, especially when it relates to rights and all that. So that not only makes it harder to find books and figure out what books you actually are interested in buying and reading, but it also, when you have limited competition, now you have to buy the Kindle edition of this book, right? You can only buy Kindle editions of books. For Kindle, you can't buy normal ebook editions, right? So if you had like a Nook or a Kobo or anything like that, you wouldn't be able to buy Kindle versions of books because they're in a different format, which is ridiculous because they're all basically PDFs functionally anyway. So that kind of segmentation of the market is, I think, a really good indicator of the fact that not only do you have limited competition, but trying to buy these things is an absolute pain. And gifting them can also be a pain because sometimes you can gift them from the app, like the Amazon app. Other times you can't. So that's another thing is like, there's 4 different things. There's the Amazon.com website. Then there's the Amazon like iPad or iOS app, right? Let's just say the iOS app. This thing doesn't let you usually, for some stupid right management reason, buy ebooks. Like you open it up, it says it's not available on this device. You have to buy it on Amazon.com, right? On the website. And then you have the Kindle app, which is, again, reminder, the Kindle app that's on iOS or any other mobile device. And then there's the Kindle actual store that you can access through the the Kindle itself, right? And that whole thing, and that lets you download samples and all that. So if you were just trying to figure out, I want to buy 5 ebooks, right? Where do I do that? And my answer, ideally, would be Amazon.com. But sometimes that doesn't work. So sometimes you have to go to the Kindle app, or other times you can go into the actual Kindle store itself, right, on the Kindle. But that confusion really hurts the ability for e-readers, generally speaking, to function at a consumer level that a bunch of people understand and are happy with. So that is the complications in terms of just answering the question of what happened to the Kindle. The second thing is, obviously this is out of context when we're trying to answer the question, if I hand someone this, that isn't used to it, how would they feel? Would they find it useful? I don't think, similar to like what happened with VR, I don't think they would find this interesting or useful for more than like a day or two. And the reason I say that is because, like VR, well, what's your stance on, getting into something like this? If you have a bunch of books, those are not transferable or scannable or anything like that to things like Kindle, so you effectively have to start over and spend a bunch of more money on books you've probably already read or aren't interested in buying again, right? That's option 1. Option 2 is someone that hasn't used a Kindle before and is starting from scratch. That person, most likely speaking, isn't going to be clamoring at the bit to read on their free time. And let's say they even are wanting to read on their free time. Now you have the worst goddamn system I've ever seen for trying to find books, which is the unfortunate aspect of Kindle Plus. Oh, sorry, it's not. It's Kindle Unlimited. And I'm pretty sure I talked about this in my Getting Rid of Gaming Backlog and stuff. I think I did because that was talking about subscription services, right? Kindle Unlimited is useless because it's this thing. It's like, oh, all these books, and meanwhile, 90% of it is horrible romantic comedy garbage, and the other 10% is maybe books that you were interested in at one point that you can get for free elsewhere, right? That is ultimately what it is, and I believe Kindle Unlimited is like 10 or 11 bucks a month, right? After it's after the like 6-month free trial or whatever you get for buying a Kindle. So that's a little bit rough. The reason I mention this is because most people are going to get roped into Kindle Unlimited, not knowing what it is, and then being swamped by a bunch of horribly written books or romantic comedies in general, if not other genres that are just poorly written, right? I even tried some sci-fi and some mystery stuff. It's just badly written, right? And so not only are you getting something that has very little choice, that's hard to get books for if you're a new person, but you'll be swindled into basically signing up for Kindle Unlimited and then finding just a truckload of garbage, right? So your initial impression, and my initial impression of Kindle, was not that good, because as someone who doesn't have a bunch of books anymore or had very limited selection of books, I was interested in getting this and getting some books to check out. The books I ended up checking out were books that were not on Kindle Unlimited, so I had to pay money for them anyway. They were cheaper than buying the physical print edition of the book, that was correct. However, because they were cheaper, they are not as, and I'm not going to say, Kindle's whole thing is, hey, it's like paper, right? You're reading paper. It is not like reading paper until you get the Paperwhite edition. Now, obviously price is, a variable topic, but for someone that isn't already in the ecosystem of Kindle, it is not cheap to get into this ecosystem at a functional level. You don't have a ton of books, you don't have a ton of that, you're ready to interested. Okay, so what is the initial investment? Let me just open up a new tab here. The initial investment will be a Kindle Paperwhite, because the initial base $110 Kindle is very small, doesn't have a backlight, and doesn't have a blue light, so it ends up being quite blue and tinted and not that good. So you're actually going to be looking for a Kindle Paperwhite. Kindle Paperwhite right here. So yeah, Kindle Paperwhite. This by default $160 and a newest model of the product. And if you want without lock screen ads, it's an extra $20. 6, 7, 8, 180. So it's $180 without Kindle Unlimited. Again, it doesn't actually affect anything, but $180 plus whatever books you want. Let's say 3 books, right? As we looked at, if you're getting like an actual book, so I'll just choose an example. Let's go for The Martian, right? Ebook right here. Let's see what that is. The Martian is $9. So yep, Kindle $9, which is cheaper than buying the hardcover at $22, but about the same as the paperback version of the book, right? So it's $9 there. Let's say you are averaging all these other things, and let's say you just do the same author because it's easier, right? Let's also go with this one right here. In this case, this is only in audiobook form, so it's $0. That's the other thing. It's like, okay, trying to figure out what's an audiobook and what isn't. And so it's like, okay, well, we look through here. and you're like, oh, this one, okay, great. This is only available in paperback, not available in an ebook version. So that's obviously annoying. It's like, I want this thing. It doesn't seem to be in ebook format. But let's say it's like $9. Okay, that's $27. So that is ultimately $180 and $27. So you're looking at about like $210 to $220, which is a decent amount of books, right? You could be, because it's all about opportunity cost. It's all about what is the alternative to a Kindle. The alternative to a Kindle is just buying the books you're interested in and reading them like that. And then you have a physical book that can never be taken away from you and never be destroyed and can't be altered and all that. Or, can be destroyed but can't be taken away from you, right, in terms of ownership. So that is a big deal when it comes to the ultimate lifespan and ecosystem of the device, because a lot of people think of this as an investment. It's only an investment if you use it, right? If you're actively planning on doing something with that investment. So I think a lot of people, similar to what happens with VR, aren't into doing that. They're like, oh, it's a cool thing. Oh, look at that. I can read books on and then they just go back to reading normal books, right? I mean, that's what I'm doing. I have a Paperwhite. I've used it about, a little bit for like a month there. And then I'm just going back to normal books because it's just not worth the dedication of a separate device. I mean, it's maybe at some point when the kind of generations turn over and more people are used to reading on tablets than they are physical books, this will change. But for me, someone that grew up reading actual books with physical pages, it doesn't feel the same. And feeling is a lot of the point, right? The idea of a Kindle is a distraction-free zone. Well, it's only a distraction-free zone if you're actively into the book itself. Unfortunately, the difference is in a book, you have that tactility. This, you don't. So when you lose tactility, you lose one of the senses that makes you fully invested. So now it's easy to get distracted by a honk, honk, honk car alarm or any other distraction that comes up, right? That's at least my personal experience. Again, you might have something different. If you're younger, if you have younger siblings, and maybe they're used to reading on an iPad or something, and then they give them a Kindle, they might be more invested into it. But at least for me, there is that difference, and there's that feeling difference of like an actual book that I'm reading and getting into rather than something on the Kindle. So obviously that's just my experience with Kindle specifically, but there are other options. And I think that's kind of where this whole thing of where I say, oh, it doesn't feel like this would be useful for more people for a long time is because it used to be, and this is obviously dependent on, market competition and stuff, it used to be that Kindle was one option of many, but people liked Kindle because of that Amazon ecosystem. There is no longer other options. There used to be Nooks. Barnes & Noble had Nooks and everyone bought them and now they're basically defunct. Remarkable came over and was like, hey, what about adding, ability to pen and stylus and stuff at $380? And, that was useful for the 4 people that end up using it, basically as a note-taking or journal app and then nothing else, right? And you even have other, technologies and stuff like the Color Soft, I believe, the new Kindle for like color and space and things. And those are like $350, $400. So you just get to a point where there is not enough variety in e-readers for people that aren't interested in something like a Kindle to care about the ecosystem at all. I cannot convince you, no matter how much I like a Kindle, theoretically, no matter how interesting they get, if you're able to write on them, take notes on them, have color, all that, there's only I'm going to convince most people to go out and get a Kindle. Because people that already have a Kindle are already in the ecosystem. People that don't already have a Kindle, already have books, aren't going to be interested in having to reset their entire library. And people that are not going to take that time and that money investment into this ecosystem to be able to do it in the first place. Obviously, like with my iPod video where I come to pretty much the same conclusion, there are people in that iPod video that said, yeah, I use an iPod because I had a Zune and I want to transfer my stuff over. That works with music because music and music tracks and stuff, even on something like iTunes, were generally speaking pretty transferable between stuff, right? You could hook it up and transfer the actual files. You can't do that here. I think that's something people kind of forget. Kindle is a locked down thing. You buy on Amazon, you buy in the Kindle app, it is the Kindle version of that thing. Unless you hack it, and unless you break open the software there for the DRM protection, these are Kindle things. You're not going to be able to convert them to PDFs or EPUBs or anything like that. These are Kindle DRM protected software, basically, that you are running on the Kindle, and you can't really use it for anything else. And so that's kind of where that whole argument kind of falls apart. Is I can't see anyone that had an e-reader previously or other device wanting to go to Kindle because it's a very specific ecosystem you have to buy into. And unlike something like Apple's ecosystem, it's actually quite harder to buy into this one because it's every single individual thing. It's like if you buy an iPhone and okay, now you have to buy maps and you have to buy mail and you have to buy calendar and all that, right? It's like, it's that kind of thing where not only do you have to get the device itself, you have to get the stuff to be able to use the device, which also costs money, unless you want to get swindled in the Kindle Unlimited. So to me, it's just a very messy situation, and one that doesn't really lend itself to being easily adapted for most people. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully, obviously if you have a different opinion and if you're in the Kindle ecosystem and can kind of shed some light on maybe why Kindles are supposed to be good or e-readers in general, then we greatly appreciate it. And I'll see everyone in the next video.